Hey, aloha, everybody. We're digging into the book, doing another section. We're at 5.1.2 now. Let me move it over there so you can see it. Don't get confused by that. That's the next page, right? We're doing this page. It's 216 or 6 to the third power for those of you who like exponents. That's what page we're doing today. It's 5.1.2. Okay. And let me see if I can make this as easy as possible for you by giving you some hints. Okay. So first off, we got Kamala Harris. Who is that? You guys are keeping up with the news. That is the first female vice president the United States has ever had. That's pretty cool, right? She's our new vice president. And she's got some local roots, right? Right. She was, I think she grew up in the Bay Area, Oakland. I think she went to Cal too. Anyway, it's January 28th. Ms. Teichman, fourth period. Make sure you have a teacher's name and the period so they know what class, right? This is just a great habit. Plus, in my class, it's the easiest 3 points you get on every homework assignment. If we're doing out of the book, I like you at least to have this part, but I even like, if you can, label all the numbers of the problems you're doing too. So that would be great if you can. Here we go with 5-13. We're doing portions webs. And all of these portions webs have been covered in a warm-up. Okay, and I was going to tell you, hey, just go watch that warm-up. But I think that was the warm-up that had the sound problem. So we will go over them, okay? But remember how portions webs work. All of these different ways of writing or showing or representing the value of a number equal each other. So this 2/10 is going to equal what percent? You're going to write it as a fraction, simplify it. You're going to write it in words and or draw a picture. Okay. So we have 4 different ways of representing the same number. And it's good to see all those together because it helps you just sort of have a better understanding for the number and know how to manipulate it when you're adding fractions or decimals or you need to convert. Okay. All right. So here we are. This first one is 2/10. All of them, they're giving you the decimal. And all of these to go from a decimal to percent. I don't know if you remember me saying before, I like how they set up the portions webs and they didn't put like the percent on top and the fraction over here. They put the fraction, decimal, percent. The reason I like it so much is when you move from a decimal to a percent, all you have to do is move that decimal 2 spots to the right. So in this case, the 2/10, if I move that 2 spots to the right, I put the decimal there, that empty spot, I fill in the egg carton and I get 20%. Okay, so you're going to do that on all of these. Now, to convert a decimal to percent, well, you can just write it as tenths or hundredths or thousandths, whatever you're dealing with. In this case, it's 2/10. And if you weren't paying attention and you just heard me, but you didn't see what I was pointing at, and I said 2/10, you wouldn't have known if I was talking about the decimal 2/10 or the fraction 2/10, because you say it the same way. Okay, and they equal the same thing. So you write that decimal as a fraction just by, it's going to be 2/10 if it's 2 places over. The 5, that's going to be hundredths, right? 75 hundredths. If it's 3 places, what's it going to be? Thousandths. And then you just simplify. Both of these are even. So I know 2 goes into the top 1 time, goes into the bottom 5. When you write it in words, 1/5, right? You can write it in words, or for that one, I can actually draw a picture. I don't want to draw a picture of thousandths, right? But 1/5 and color in 1, right? You divide that pie into 5 spots. So that first one's done. You're going to do the same thing with these other 3. I think you can do that. Okay. Now, before you do these, write in big block letters on top of them, multiplying fractions. No, I'm not done yet. Is what? Is what? What? What are you writing there? In even bigger letters, you're writing easy. Get that in your brain, okay? People, when they first start doing fractions, multiplying fractions, that's going to be hard, right? Because multiplying was harder than adding, right? But multiplying fractions is easy. You do not have to remember about getting common denominators and stuff. All you do is straight across the top, right? 3 times 2, straight across the bottom, 8 times 3, right? Sometimes you have to simplify when you're done. The other thing is definitely, if you don't have this drilled in your brain yet, of means times. Okay, so whenever you do that, don't just write times, write of, and put a big X through it. So that reminds you, you can still see the of, but now you see an X through it, and that's reminding you that of means times. And write it real big on your paper somewhere. Of means times or multiply. This pen's going to drive me nuts if it keeps on doing that, huh? All right. All right, that's a good reminder. Okay, so that's what you're doing. You're just going straight across the top, straight across the bottom, and sometimes you simplify. I think you know how to do those. Absolute values. Okay, whatever's inside the bar, when you're done with any of the math that might be in there, you're asking how far is that number from 0? Okay, and that's your answer, right? So that means it's going to be a positive number. You're going to say how far, how many blocks do you live from my house? You don't say negative 11 blocks, right? Right, because you're going in the other direction. So that's kind of what you're doing. It's a distance. You don't say a distance is a negative usually. All right. Now, what do I have in here? I have -5 plus -1. I owe $5 plus I owe $1. Total, I owe 6. And how far is -6 from 0? Well, it's 6 spots. So this ends up being 6 for your answer. Okay? Now, this negative is outside the box, so it's not going to erase. Your answer is going to be negative here. Okay, -2 times 4. You figure that out. Now, there's nothing written between the 3 and 5/10 and this absolute value. What are you supposed to do with the 3 and 5/10 and the answer to that absolute value, -8? Do you know? Hopefully, you're starting to remember, you are supposed to multiply. If nothing's written between a number and a letter, 3x, it's 3 times x. If nothing's written between a number and parentheses, right? This is not 46, it's 4 times 6. Okay, so hopefully you're starting to learn that. They wrote it for you here. And on this one, this is kind of tricky on this one. I owe 5.6 plus I have 11.2. I have more than I owe. So I know my answer here is going to be positive, but how much more do I have? Well, I'm trying to figure out what's the difference between 11.2 and 5.6. Go find the difference. Remember what the difference is. You subtract 10 minus 5. So I get 5.6, right? So that's a positive, but it doesn't matter because 5.6 is 5.6 from 0. So I have 5.6, and I'm going to subtract 5.6. What are you going to get? Donuts. All right. You guys tried that next one. I think you got it. These next problems are kind of cool. These are they're ropes, and they're telling you how long the rope is. I just went ahead and copied this, but on A, they're saying this is a 25-foot rope, this whole thing. And I have 3 equal pieces plus 10 feet left over. Okay, so this n plus n plus n plus 10 equals 25. So think to yourself, how big is this part? Well, it's 25 minus 10, right? But let's use our algebra, right? N plus n plus n is the same as n times 3. And that plus 10 equals 25. Now, again, this equation is in perfect balance, right? Now, my goal is to find out what n is, to get n all by itself on one side of the equal sign. What's that called again? Isolate the variable. What do I have to do? I have to get rid of everything else. Now, first, I'm going to get rid of a plus n. How can you get rid of a plus n? You do the opposite. What's the math term for that? Inverse operation. The inverse operation of plus 10 is minus 10. But I will be out of balance unless I do the same thing to this side, right? So the plus 10 and minus 10, they go away, and 25 minus 10 equals 15. So n times 3 equals 15. 3 of these things equals 15. What is one of those things? You can solve it by doing the inverse operation of times 3. Okay? You try it. Now, the next one, it says this piece of rope is 310 feet. And that's 10 feet on the end. So some of you guys are already, I know it. But do the math. Write the equation and do a little math to solve it. This piece here is a little tricky, okay? Because this piece is 13 feet, okay? So you end up with j plus 10 more equals 13. You do the math, see if you can figure that out, right? All right, last few problems is when we are going to convert, okay, mixed numbers to fractions. Convert mixed numbers to fractions. I believe I did that 2 days ago on the warm-up, maybe 3 days ago. I think we did these. But how do you do that? A mixed number to an improper fraction? Remember how we do this? What's the method? What do we call it? We call it the C method. Each of those 5 wholes is 11 elevenths, right? 11 elevenths, 11 elevenths, 11 elevenths, 11 elevenths, 11 elevenths, plus that 3 on it. So I'm going to multiply 5 times 11 and then add the 3 that's left over. And what's that going to go over? The same thing as what I started with. Okay? On B, now you're doing the opposite. How do I change an improper fraction to a mixed number? Well, you divide the bottom into the top. How many times does 4 go into 49? And then when you get your remainder down here, your remainder is going to go on top. And what goes on the bottom? Same thing as what you started with. Okay, so you're going to divide. When you get your remainder, bring it on top. Okay, and you could double check your answer by using the C method on your answer. Should go back to that. Okay, 3 and 1/10. Sorry, 3 and 1/20th. Use a C method. And 603 hundredths. Divide the bottom into the top. I think you can do all of these. I'm going to let you try it. Go ask your teacher for help this afternoon if you need help. Otherwise, come back tomorrow and see how you did on all your answers. Okay?